Good day to everyone joining us on Zoom and those watching us from our live stream on YouTube. Welcome to today's session on Covidence Extraction 1 tool. And in this session, we'll provide a walkthrough of Extraction 1 and demonstrate how to use it to extract data from your included studies. Everyone joining us on Zoom and those watching us from our live stream. And in this session, we'll provide a walkthrough of Extraction 1 and demonstrate how to use it to extract data from your included studies. Extraction 1 has recently undergone several updates that enhance its flexibility and usability, and we'll be highlighting these changes as we go. So whether you're new to Extraction 1 or you're looking to familiarize yourself with its latest features, we hope that this session will support you in using it effectively as a part of your review process. So my name is Stenberg Rota, and I'll be your session presenter today. I'm a community manager here at Covidence, and I'm based in the Philippines. I'm joined today also by my colleague, Julie Brown, and she's a consultant systematic reviewer, and she's based in New Zealand. Julie will be helping to answer your questions in the background, and will be facilitating the Q&A session at the end. Today's session is in standard webinar mode, so everyone is muted. However, you can ask questions anytime. Just pop them in the questions box. And if you see a question you like, give it an upvote, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. But if you run out of time, we'll follow up by email. To everyone joining us on Zoom and those watching us from our live stream on YouTube. Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. So we are also recording today's webinar, and you'll get an email by you'll get the link by email within the next 24 hours. You can also find the recording and the slides in our knowledge base, and I'll drop the link in the chat now. Okay. Right. So before we jump in, I'm just going to be providing you with a little bit of background information about Covidence. So Covidence was created by and for the research community and is designed to streamline the review process from importing your references, title abstract screening, data extraction through to risk of bias assessment. The platform allows our review teams to significantly reduce the amount of time spent on reviews, meaning that people are able to produce high quality evidence faster. We have a full-time team based around the world continuously working on improving the product and providing technical support to our global user community. Covidence is a cloud-based online platform. There's nothing to download or update, and we currently support the world's largest review community with over 650,000 users around the world. Right. So what are we covering today? We will begin by defining what data extraction is. We'll then provide you an overview of the extraction process using Covidence's Extraction 1 tool. We'll then walk through a live demo to show you the tool in action. We'll also be revisiting some of the key features of Extraction 1, and then we'll wrap up with a Q&A session to answer your questions at the end. Okay, so let's now begin with the poll question. And we are interested to know if you have used Extraction 1 in your Covidence review before. So let me just launch our first poll here. Okay, so we have their yes, no, or I'm not sure. So if you could answer this question, that would be really great. I'll just allow about 30 seconds for people to answer. Okay, so that's 30 seconds. I'm going to end the poll now, and I'll show you the results. Okay, so as you can see here, most of the attendees have not used Extraction 1 before. So this is really a great session. That's 77%. We also have 16% who have used it before and about 7% who are not sure. I'm just going to stop sharing now. And yeah, data extraction is probably the hardest part of the systematic review process. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you'll see how Extraction 1 is able to make the data extraction process a little bit smoother and easier for you and your team. Okay, so what's data extraction? So it's basically gathering and organizing information from studies so you can analyze it or pull together a narrative summary. And why is it important? A good data extraction template means you only collect what you actually need and in a consistent way. So you're not constantly going back to the original sources. Using a review framework like PICO helps keep things systematic and make sure you capture um, all the essentials. So it's best to set this up early, even including a sample form in your protocol, so you reduce the risk of bias later on. So how do you do it? So you start with a clear template based on your protocol. You then test it on a few studies to make sure it works. You then collect your data systematically. And then if there are any differences between reviewers, you can talk them through, resolve any conflicts, and agree on the final version. And once that's done, you can then export the data for analysis or synthesis. And now we'll begin exploring extraction one and how it can support your data extraction process. Excuse me. So Covidence helps you create a clear structured data extraction template. In extraction one, we provide a standard template you can tailor for your review, whether it's intervention or non-intervention review. There is no single best template, and it all really depends on your review's purpose, the data you're collecting as well, and your outcomes of interest. And the process usually takes or follows 5 steps. So first, you design your template, keep it clear and logical. A good template reduces confusion and errors, but it often takes a few tweaks to get it right. So think of it as a mold that shapes all your extraction forms. You then publish it. So once you're happy, you publish it so all reviewers can start extracting. You then start extracting so you can pilot with a few studies before screening is finished, adjust it as needed, and Covidence lets you update anytime. You then reach your consensus. So in dual reviewer mode, you compare the data extraction entries and resolve differences. And in single reviewer mode, you can skip the step. You then export your data. So once done, you export that as a CSV or an Excel file for analysis, particularly in statistical programs like Stata, R, or SPSS. Okay, so the first step in extraction one is setting up and publishing your DE or data extraction template. So whatever you include in that template becomes the structure for the data extraction form. Okay, so this is your template and this is your form. And so reviewers will use the form for extracting data from the included studies. So when it's time to extract data, you'll open up each study's full text PDFs, find the relevant information, and enter it directly into the form based on your created template. I'll be showing you what that looks like during the live demo. Okay, so the extraction one template is organized into 5 key sections. You have identification, methods, population, intervention, and outcomes. Okay, so these sections help structure and standardize the data you collect across studies. Okay, so now let's begin the live demo. And I'm just going to take you to to a review that I've prepared here for you. Okay, so this is your review summary page, which you should all be familiar by now, and you'll most likely have undertaken the screening steps here, and you're now ready to start your extraction. But first of all, I'm just going to take you to the settings. Okay, so just so you know where to find the settings for selecting the extraction tool and managing your extraction settings. So if you go to your review settings and then you scroll down, there are a couple of things here to be aware of. So make sure that you have checked the box here for automation options. So extraction one provides you with some automated suggestions from large language models during extraction process. So make sure that you've got this checked and those suggestions will be visible during data extraction. If you scroll down a bit further, you'll see at the bottom the ability to select which of the tools you want. And so we've got here extraction one selected. So if you want to use extraction one for your data extraction, make sure that you have selected this. Okay, you can switch between the two tools and you won't lose any data that you've collected, but you cannot transfer from the data from extraction 1 to extraction 2 and vice versa. Just gonna go back up here and in the team settings, so this one here, I'm just gonna show you. Um, if you scroll down to the bottom here, there's a section on extraction, and there are some rules here that you can set. So you'll see here the overall progress of the team through the extraction. You'll be able to see each reviewer on the team as well, and how many studies they've extracted so far. Okay, and then you'll have the rules here. Okay, so there are two roles in extraction. You can be reviewer 1 or reviewer 2, and those reviewers have slightly different roles to play. Reviewer 1 helps with the selection of the interventions or exposures, the outcomes, and the time points. And reviewer 2 will extract the data as well, but they don't make any of those selections. So if you want someone specifically on your team to take on those roles, you can set a role here. Okay, so I can add myself here as the first reviewer or reviewer 1. So I am responsible for making those decisions for interventions, outcomes, and time points. You can also make a decision about who can edit the template in this review, and anybody else will get an error, okay, when they try to edit the template. So I have to click add and add. And the consensus step as well. So that's when you see the extractions of the two reviewers side by side. And if there's someone on the team that you want to be responsible for resolving consensus, or there's a particular reviewer, you only want the first reviewer, for example, to be involved, then you can make that decision. So this is usually given to the most senior member of the team. So that's something to take a look at. So yeah, these are important places in your settings to check before starting your data extraction. And now I'm just gonna go back to the review summary page. Okay. So to access the extraction 1 tool in your review, go to the extraction tab. Okay. And then click continue. Okay. If it's an active review, you can just click continue. Or you can also click on this hyperlink. Okay. If you don't have any included studies yet. And at the top of the page, you'll see two blue buttons. Okay, so one for creating your data extraction template and one for setting up your quality assessment template. So these are your starting points for customizing the templates to suit your review needs. So if we click on data extraction template button, so you won't be able to start data extraction until you have created and published a template. You can customize this template to fit your specific reviews needs, and once you're happy with the fields you've added, you can save changes by clicking the Publish Template button up here. Publishing the template will make the template available to all authors of the review, and all changes will be applied to all studies. So once you land on the data extraction template page, a good starting point is to explore our support resources up here. So you can watch the short video guide, and you can also check out the linked support articles to help you set up each section. We also have a live chat button down here. So if you're going through this process, you get stuck, if one of us is available, you can chat with us live and we can help you go through the process. Okay, so as you can see, the template includes my 5 main sections. You have identification methods, population, interventions, and outcomes. And each section has has preset fields, but you can remove any fields that aren't relevant by simply unselecting them. Okay, and customize other parts of the template as well to fit the needs of your review. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go through each of these sections with you and explain what each section is about, and give you some examples of what people might add into those sections of the template. So we'll start with the identification section. So this section is designed to capture the general information about studies, including where it was conducted, excuse me, how it was funded, and how to contact the lead author if you have any questions. You can see 3 subheadings: study details, author contact details, and additional data. So these are default fields, but if these are not relevant for your review, again, you can uncheck them and then they won't appear. in your extraction form, but then you can always come back into the template anytime and add them back in if you wish to. Over in the corner here, you see a preview button, and this is available for each sections of the data extraction template. And it just shows you what this section will look like when you're doing the data extraction. And this is what the actual page will look like. Okay, so there's always useful information here as well. So if you click this link, it will take you out to a knowledge base page where you can read more about how to set this section up successfully. Just clicking done. So yeah, you have your study details at the top, and then you have your contact details here. And under additional data, Covidence gives you some examples all the way through the template. And again, if these aren't relevant to your review, you can simply use the trash icon to remove them. You can use the plus icon, okay, to add in any additional data, and the kind of information that people usually include in the identification section might be trial registration number. You can also add study center, for example. Some people might also want to know if conflict of interest was reported, and also if there was any peer review. Okay, so if you can add all those additional data here, but again, if you don't need them, you can just use the trash icon to remove them. Now, the method section of the template allows you to capture the design, aims, and conduct of the study. So we've got two subheadings here. You've got methods detail, and you've got additional data. And under the methods detail, you've got some options here, study design and group. So these are items that you cannot remove, but if you look at the preview, you'll see what that covers is that it has a drop-down list with study designs in it. So you can choose randomized controlled trials, cohort studies, prospective and retrospective, for example. So you can make the selection there about the study design. But if your study design is not there, there's also an other option, and you'll be able to manually type in the study design. So I'll show you that later on when we get to the study form level. In the I'm just going to close this. So in the additional data subheading, some of the things that you can add here are often things like aims and objectives of the study. If you want to include the aims, some people might also want to include methods of recruitment, for example, or if any blinding was undertaken. It's also useful to add another option here. Okay, just so that if there's something else in the methods that later on you want to capture, you'll be able to do that. So these are the common items that people might add, and if you make a mistake, you can use the trash icon again to remove them. Within the population section, if we click preview, you'll see there are sections on inclusion, exclusion, and group differences. These sections appear by default and they cannot be changed. But if you uncheck them, if you don't want them, you can do that by just ticking these boxes here. There are also examples of additional data you can capture, such as sample size of the study, number of withdrawals, and the reasons for withdrawals. If this information isn't relevant to your review, again, you can use the trash icon here. You can also add additional items you'd like to capture in the baseline characteristics table. So this table allows you to record information about the participants. And in this example, we're capturing the mean age, okay? But you can add as many characteristics as you need. For example, you might want to include the number of male participants, okay? Or any health information such as vaccination status, for example. And that's for different vaccines. So you can build out this list as needed. These characteristics could be clinical, or they might describe other populations. For example, the age of students, their level of education. And so, yeah, these are the details that you often see in the demographics table when extracting data from your full text, and this is where you can capture that information. Next is your intervention section. So this section is designed to cover not only interventions and control groups, but also exposures or phenomena of interest. And that's again depending on your review type. So again, extraction one is now also suitable for non-intervention reviews, such as scoping reviews, and all of that information can be captured here. So to set that up, just click this setup button here. So you can add any interventions or exposures relevant to your review. On the right, you can see a preview of how this will appear to the data extractor, so you can confirm it looks correct. And for this review, we're looking at vitamin C, so I'm going to overwrite the default label to vitamin C. And I'm also going to include a control group. Okay, I'm happy with that. And I also want to distinguish this from a placebo group. Okay, additionally, I'd like to record exposure information, for instance, where the participants might want to know whether participants were exposed to the common cold. So I'll add that as an item. You can also include as many interventions or exposures as you need. This setup will create a checklist that you'll be able to select from the form later on when you start your data extraction. The next step is to define any details you'd like to capture about each intervention or exposure. For a drug intervention, you might want to include fields such as dose and frequency. Otherwise, you can add any other details relevant to your topic. For example, you can add or you can record severity of the cold, for example, or sorry, or any comorbidities as well. So comorbidities. If you make a mistake, you can easily remove them by just clicking the trash icon. So once everything is set up, okay, you'll see your interventions clearly listed, okay? And you can also reorder them, okay, to match the sequence that best suits how you plan to collect the data. Okay, next we'll go to outcomes. So I'm just going to click setup. So in your outcomes, the types of data you can capture include continuous data such as means and standard deviations, dichotomous data like events and percentages, and also qualitative data. So to add a new outcome, the order you add them doesn't really matter. You just have to click on the bar to create a new outcome and give it a name. So for example, I might want to collect information on the duration of cold, for example. And since that's going to be a mean value, I'll leave that as continuous data. But then you'll notice from that drop down that you can also select dichotomous or qualitative data. And in this case, I'll keep it as continuous. In terms of time points, you can also add as many as you like and name them however you wish. For example, I want to add baseline data, for example. I'd also want to know data from 6 weeks or data from 12 weeks, for example. So, and then you can also drag and drop them, okay, to reorder them. So I want the baseline here, 6 and 12 weeks in the middle, and then end of study. And that's one outcome. I also might want to capture an outcome related to symptoms. So symptoms could be reported either as a dichotomous data or a qualitative data. So if you want outcomes that could be expressed in different ways, you can create separate entries to distinguish them. For example, I want symptoms that can be reported as dichotomous. So I'll have that here, and then I'll select dichotomous, and then I want to know probably just the baseline data. So that's one. And then I'll add the qualitative symptoms outcome. So I'll say symptoms and then qualitative, and then I'll choose qualitative for that. And I also want to know just probably baseline data. So that's that. And now you can see how simple it is to keep adding outcomes. And another example I might want to capture could be barriers or enablers to treatment. And this one is a qualitative data. So I'll choose qualitative, and then I can plan to record findings and themes, and perhaps only at the end of the study or baseline. So it all really depends on your team's preference. And you can create as many outcomes as you need, but it's important to note that you'll have a list of outcomes in your form. And when you're extracting data from a PDF, you'll be able to select which outcomes are being reported in that study. From here as well, you can also set up what are essentially subgroups. So for example, in this preview, if your outcome is quality of life, it could be reported across different domains. So you can have it reported in as physical health and psychological health. So similarly, you could use this approach to capture data split by characteristics like males versus females. You can use the naming to help you define these subgroups clearly, and I will show you later how this looks like in the actual extraction form. Okay, now let's move on to outcome details. Outcome details appear in the table below your list of outcomes. So these fields include scale, range, unit of measurement, direction, data value, and notes. If this isn't relevant to your review, you can simply uncheck them and they won't appear in your form. Okay, now let's move to your results data formats. So by default, continuous data are shown as means and standard deviations, and dichotomous data are shown as events and totals. However, in your PDFs, the data may be reported differently. So for example, as medians or percentages. So when you click on the drop-down list here, you'll see all the available options that you can select from. So you can see this in your extraction form. For continuous data, you'll be able to choose any of these to capture the data exactly as reported. 95% confidence interval, standard error, mean, standard deviation. And the same applies to dichotomous data as well. You got odds ratio, risk ratio, p-value, and you can also capture any qualitative data that you wish. Okay, so if the data format you need isn't listed, you can always use the add custom button here. So for example, I wanna have more fields for capturing the themes, so I can do that. Some people also use this to add notes. Okay, so when you add the custom value, it will appear in your drop-down list in the extraction form, and I'll show you later on how this looks like in the form. You can add any non-standard data types here, such as, for example, time to event, outcomes. You can also add diagnostic test metrics like uh, positive predictive values or area under the curve or numbers needed to treat, among others. And any custom entries you create will then be available to select, and you can add columns to your form to collect those data. And again, I'll walk you through how to do that in just a moment. So yeah, having gone through all of that, all of those sections, we're now finished. Okay. And we've got our template in place, and all you need to do now is click the publish template up here. Okay. So I'm just gonna swap now to another review, an active review, where I can now start the data extraction. So you can see that the templates now are white, which means it's been published, and I can now begin or continue the data extraction. And just remember that you can always go back at any time to your template and make edits and changes, and then republish the templates again. Okay, I'm just gonna click continue. So now you can see that I'm able to start the data extraction with the start or continue buttons now available. And this is in dual reviewer mode. So you have reviewer 1 and reviewer 2. Let me just go back. But if you need to change a reviewer's name, just click on this manage reviewer. Let me just this manage reviewer link here. And we can see here that reviewer 2 is unassigned. And so if you want to assign someone, you can just click on this button, and then it will add the reviewer in any reviewer in your team. If there is already an existing reviewer, for example, here, Razia is already reviewer 2, you can also change that, and you will have, so for example, I want to change it to Julie. You will then be presented with a few options here. Okay, so I can either transfer Razia's form into Julie's name, so then Julie will be able to view it or clear it. If you select this option, to start a new form, you will lose any data that's been collected there and it will be lost permanently. We cannot retrieve that. So be very careful which of these options you select if you ever make that decision. Okay, so I'm now going to take you to a review, which is this one here. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. Um, and in this case, I am reviewer one. I'm the first reviewer. So on the left, you will see the full text PDF. Okay, you can zoom in and zoom out. Okay, you can flip the orientation. You can search for keywords as well. And you can also copy and paste directly from the PDF into the extraction form. Now, here in the middle, you'll see a few tabs. The first one is the summary tab. You cannot edit this and it gets automatically populated as you move along. Identification. So this is all of those study details that we set up in the template, country, setting, author contact details. And this is where Covidence uses some large language models to pull across suggestions for you. Okay. So if there's a suggestion, you can either accept it or decline it. Now, if at any time you want to go back and edit the template, you can just go at the top here and click Edit Template. Okay, clicking it takes you back to the template setup page. You can make changes, and when you click Publish, it'll bring you back to this study that you are working on. Methods, I can select the study design here. So this might be randomized controlled trial, for example. And if it's not, then I can select other. And then I can manually type in here the study design. Okay, for example, mixed methods. Okay. The other thing that you'll notice is that everything is automatically saved. Okay, and so you don't have to worry about saving all your data, as all data is saved as you go along, and you can tell by looking at this alert up here. Population. So here are the inclusion and exclusion criteria. You can just copy and paste straight across from your PDF. And when you get down to the baseline characteristics, so this lists all of the things that we're interested in. Okay, the age, the gender. Excuse me. For example, and we just have an overall column to collect the data in. Now in the interventions tab, Covidence may give you some suggestions as well from the large language model about what it thinks is there. You might also want to add in subgroup level of information. Okay, so for this particular intervention, which is vitamin C, I might have a high and a low dose of vitamin C, for example. So all we have to do here is add in the group name. Okay, so I'm going to call this one low dose. Okay, and then you can see here some buttons. So if I use the plus icon, I've got another column for that same intervention. So I could call this one high dose. Okay, and you can add as many as you want for either group. So for placebo, that will be the same. Exposure of colds, sorry, exposure to colds, that'll be the same as well. For example, I want to know exposure to colds by gender or by age or like age group, pediatrics, for example. Um, and I'll put here geriatrics as well, for example. Okay, so yeah, I can add another group and I can capture the information that I wanted. Just gonna close this. And I'm going to your outcomes. So you can capture a number of colds and symptoms, for example, and the duration. And again, you can add subgroup level information in here. So if you wanted to capture this specifically for, again, males and females, you can do that. You want to capture between children and adults, for example. You can do that as well. If you want to remove a column, you can simply use the trash icon. Okay. And that will be the same with your time points as well. Okay, so if time points need to be edited because they're not reported in this particular paper, you can just remove them. Okay. Or I can just stick with one time point, for example. And I can add an actual time point as well by clicking this add more link button here. So for example, I want to add 12 weeks, or I want to add end of study. I can do that as well. Or I can edit that, for example, 1 year. Okay. So yeah, you can select outcomes, you can add subgroups, you can amend time points, and you can also give specific time points as well. So once you've selected your interventions and your outcomes, click on the results data and the tables are created for you. So I've got my outcomes here, I've got my interventions, I've got my time points, and now I can go ahead and collect the data. Now this drop down here gives you your options. So I can change to percentages or just the actual events, for example. Um, you can also add in some details if you wanted to. Uh, if you want to add, again, I could collect odds ratio, for example, or I can add p-value, for example. Okay. And then I can also remove them if I don't need them by just clicking the trash icon. And that'll be the same with your means. Okay, remember your continuous data down here. So I can change that to median. Okay, this one I can change to mean. And I can also do that for, oh, sorry, I can add range as well if you want. So it gives you the upper and lower range data as well. If you're capturing qualitative information, you can also add that in a standard way. We've set it up for reporting it as findings, themes, or quotes. And if you don't want to capture any quotations, you can also remove that. Okay. If you want to capture more than one theme, you can do that as long as you've put that in the custom section. Remember when we were setting up your template, you just have to click the plus icon here and add another theme, for example. So that's very customizable. You can add multiple columns. If you need to add more, you can go to the top and click edit template. Okay, and it'll allow you to edit the template and add in any custom features that you might have forgotten when you were still doing your initial data extraction template creation. So once you've published all of your data collection, you then go back to your summary page. Okay, and then click complete, and that will move the study forward to the consensus step. Okay. Just gonna go back to the main extraction page. And just before I show you what consensus looks like, I'm just gonna quickly show you as well what it looks like for a reviewer two. Okay, so in this example, let's see. Here, I'm reviewer two, so I'm not the first reviewer, and I'm the second reviewer doing the extraction. So when I click on interventions, I won't see any option, okay, to add or remove the intervention. So they've been set up for me and it tells me who to contact, which is Gida. She's reviewer one if I want to make a change in the form. But just like reviewer one, I just need to collect the information. That'll be the same for your outcomes and for your results data as well. So there's no way for me to change the form. So I just need to come in here and these fields will be blank and I need to fill in the values. And when I go to the summary tab and click the complete button, the study will then move into the consensus phase. Okay. Some people are having trouble hearing me. Can everyone hear me? I'll just continue. So if I go back to the table, you will then see those studies. Okay, thank you. Thanks for answering. So you will see, yep, thank you, thank you. You'll see those studies that need consensus. I'm just gonna look for this one here. And when I click on consensus, you'll see here is reviewer one and you have reviewer two's extracted data side by side. When there are differences in the data, they'll be highlighted in blue. Okay. To select the correct data, you just need to click on the cell. This one, for example, and it will populate the final data or the consensus data. I can edit this, so I could add additional information if I wanted to, if that was correct, and the consensus column becomes the final data. Okay, and You can ignore any rows that aren't blue because that means they are in agreement. Once you finish making those final selections, click complete up here, and the data will then be ready for export. Once you're ready to export your data, you can then click the export button here. Or if you go to the summary page, you can also click this export button here, and it takes you to the same page. And here you can select your data. Okay, you can select it as a CSV format or as an Excel file. So if you click prepare file, the file will be there for you to export down here. Okay, right. And I'm just gonna go back to my slides, and I'm just gonna be giving you a quick recap of our extraction features. So the first one is the automated extraction suggestion. So as shown in the demo, extraction one now uses large language models. So to automatically suggest data when a DOI is available. So in the identification section, you'll see suggestions for all the one users. You just need to review each of the study and each of the suggestion. Click tick if you want to accept that data, or cross to reject. If no suggestion appears, simply enter the data as usual. In the intervention section, the large language model pulls intervention groups from full text PDFs and shows a summary banner at the top. So when I click at an intervention, the links to the suggestion drop down appears. You select the correct match or choose no relevant suggestions if nothing fits. By using the link to suggestions field, you can help us, you can help improve Covidence's automation, and can take advantage of future features, including characteristics and results data suggestions. Many studies have one intervention group and one comparison group. However, it can get more complex than that. As an example, imagine a study that reports different variations of an intervention. In that case, you will have multiple intervention groups or multiple intervention arms, which are given different variations of the intervention. For example, different doses, different locations. So the group name field helps distinguish between those multiple groups or arms receiving the same intervention category. So for example, you have vitamin C 500 milligram, vitamin C 1000 milligram. So it helps you extract the group name as it's reported in the study whilst mapping it to your template defined interventions. When you open the outcomes section, you'll find the list of all outcomes that have been defined on the template. And once an outcome is selected, the table will appear with the time points that have been defined on the template. You can then remove time points if they weren't included in the study, selecting and deselecting outcomes and interventions. Sorry, outcomes and time points will not impact other studies. For each outcome, you can optionally add a reported name to accurately capture how the study reported the outcome. You can also add the reported time against any relevant time points. And the outcomes need to be selected before they appear on the results section. And as we've mentioned before, only the first reviewer can select outcomes and remove time points, and only the first reviewer can add reported names and reported time points. In extraction one, you can also now add qualitative outcomes to the data extraction template and extract qualitative outcomes from studies. Okay, and when you first open the results data section, you'll find a table for each outcome that has been selected on the outcome section for that study with default measures. So each intervention and time point combination will show us rows. The columns shown by default can be edited by selecting the drop-down option. You can also add or delete columns so that you can change the table to suit the data that needs to be extracted from studies. If you need to add more custom data formats, you can add them to the template at any time. You can also now switch between dual reviewer to single reviewer mode in extraction one. And using extractions or using single reviewer workflow means that only one reviewer is required to complete data extraction and quality assessment on each study. And in addition, you will not need to complete a consensus step if you're doing data extraction in single reviewer mode. And finally, you can export data by going to the export button and selecting if you want the data as a CSV file or as an Excel file. In extraction one, you can also export directly to RevMan. So this creates a series of files that can then be checked and exported into RevMan. Right, so that was a quick overview of our data extraction one. I'm just gonna run a poll again. And now we're interested to know how likely are you to use or continue to use Covidence for the data extraction stage of your review project. So I'm just gonna give you about 20 to 30 seconds to answer this. Thank you all so much. Okay, I'm just gonna end the poll now, and I'm gonna share the results. Okay, so as we can see here, majority, 73% are now very likely to use Covidence for their extraction for their data extraction. We have about 23% that are still undecided, and we have about 4% who are very unlikely. So what to do next? Okay. Sure if I close that. So I'm just gonna stop sharing. Oh. And so what to do next? So first is you can try the extraction one tool in our demo review. It's preloaded with data, so you can explore and test the features. I'll now pop a knowledge-based link in the chat with instructions on how to access the demo review. So that's the link there. And we also have got some exciting webinars coming up. In October, we'll be covering types of reviews and research. So this is perfect for understanding which review type best fits your project. And then in November, we'll dive into scoping reviews. So we'll be walking you through when and how to use them effectively. You can check them out on our knowledge base page. And I'll also post the link here in the chat. And the registration links will be updated there closer to each date. And we also have got some free ebooks on intervention systematic review. So these are tool agnostic ebooks and packed with practical tips. They might be useful for you, so it's worth checking them out. You can download them individually or as a bundle. I'll be posting the link now on how to access them. Or you can scan the QR code that's displayed here to go straight to the page. Okay, so that's it. I know that there was a lot to cover, so thank you all so much for sticking with us. And we hope that you found the session helpful and learned something new about Extraction One. And we are now happy to open the floor for any questions you might have. And Julie will be answering those questions for us. Julie, do you want to take
Yeah,
over?
thanks, Chen. That was fantastic. That's a really comprehensive walk through there. So I really appreciate that.
Okay.
And definitely the number of questions that have come through have demonstrated what an interesting topic it is. So thank you everyone who's been asking questions. I've tried to answer a lot of them as we've been going through. And I've kind of tried to consolidate some of them as well. So there are quite a few people who were asking a little bit about what's the difference between the extraction one and the extraction two tools. So I'm just going to share my screen, and while I'm answering these questions, try and talk you through a little bit more. So Ten explained that there are two tools, extraction one and extraction two. Extraction one is the tool that Ten talked us through today. So this is a tool that uses a very structured format. All of the features that have been explained today about how you can customize your extraction form means that it's a very customizable tool. You can use single or dual reviewer screening with that. and it exports in various different formats. The extraction 2 tool has a little bit more flexibility in it. So I think you would be better using the extraction 2 tool if you've got a lot of qualitative data, or if you're looking at very complex reviews, the umbrella reviews, for example, or overviews of reviews. The extraction 1 tool is structured in such a way that you can use it whether you're working on an intervention systematic review or a scoping review or a qualitative review, and Ten's shown you how that you can add those different kinds of outcomes. So those are the kind of the main differences. The best thing to do is to switch between those tools. So test them out, see what it feels like, which one you think is best suited to your review. And if you're struggling to make a decision, then just contact the support team and we'll be able to look at the review you're working on if you've got a protocol and give you the best advice. Another question that came up was about duplicating templates. So can I use my template more than once? The answer is no, unfortunately not at the moment. You can't duplicate extraction templates. You'd have to start with another template. In terms of downloading templates as well, some publications need to have your protocol published as well that includes the template that you're going to use for extraction. You can't download it directly, but you could use a screen print and then save as a PDF. And I think that would work quite well for the purposes of submitting those kind of documents. So that was another question that came through a few times. There were some questions that came through around using AI in Covidence and for data extraction. So you will have seen that we've got automated suggestions there that come through in the identification section and the intervention section. Now, those are suggestions. They're not put there without you having the option to make a choice. So this is what's really important to Covidence, that we keep the human in the loop. So there are suggestions, you can accept or decline those. And we're moving now as rapidly as we possibly can to provide you with some suggestions for the results data as well. So watch this space, because we will, you'll start to see those kind of moving forward in the coming month or months. But what does remain really important to us is that we don't rush to provide you with those automated results data, that we want to be sure that what the information we provide you with is as accurate as we can possibly get it. So we're investing a lot of time and effort and resources into getting that right. So that's very important to us. There were quite a few questions about if you're doing single reviewer data extraction and looking at consensus. So Ken was showing us about the consensus when you've got two extractors. Of course, if you're doing single data extraction, there is no consensus there. Once you've made your data extraction and click the complete button, then the data is available for you to export. So there is no consensus step there at all. A lot of questions about scoping reviews. So I'm just going to open this up and go to the template. Now, a lot of you see this section heading on interventions and begin to think that it's not going to be suitable for the kind of review that you're working on. So we've given it the heading interventions, but it goes beyond that. So you can see here that although the title there is interventions, you can add interventions, comparisons. You can add in your exposures, phenomenon of interest. You can add in your context, concepts in there as well. But even if you're working on a scoping review, you just need to kind of transpose anything that would be an intervention into this section. So what I've done here is added things like measurement tools. This is another question that came through about if you're looking at a kind of a scoping review where actually all you want to know is what tools were being used in this setting, then you can use this extraction tool. You can have your measurement tools as your intervention, your exposure. And under the intervention details section, here you can add in all of those things that you want to find out about your tools, for example. So you can have what the components are, how sensitive it was, or the specificity, or who administered the tool in what settings. So you can capture all of that information. It means that you don't necessarily need to go onto the outcomes section if you're not capturing any of the kind of outcome measures, if you like. So what that means is that you can create a table basically that has tools of interest and what they're composed of. So that a little bit shows you how a little bit more flexible it can be. Other questions that came in were around editing the template. Had lots of questions about that. So yes, even after you've started your data extraction process, you can still come back and edit your template. We did see 10 demonstrate that. So if I go and check study here, I can think I might need to make a change here at any time. All I have to do is click on the edit template button, takes me straight back. I can make changes, can carry on. And when I click the publish button, it'll take me straight back to the study that I was extracting. So while I'm here, I'm just going to show you that option on the tools. So if you, oops, if you only were interested in looking at measurement tools as an example, here you can see, we'll ignore these bits at the top here, but I could just capture all the information about the specific tool that I wanted. If there was more than one tool in the paper that I was looking at, I could name this tool A. Then I can use the plus icon to add another tool or
Sorry, Julie.
scale. Or, yes, go
We're
ahead.
we're just on the hour now, so
Okay. So for those of you who'd like to leave, you're more than welcome. The hour of the webinar is up. But if you want to stay on and hear the responses to some of the other questions, then I'm happy to continue doing that for the next 10 minutes or so. So you're more than welcome to stay if you want to. But thank you very much for your attention if you're leaving. I really appreciate the time that you've taken today.
thanks
For, the,
everyone.
for those of you who'd like to stay on a little bit longer, so we've got these, you can keep adding tools if you wish to and capture that information. Other questions that came in were around capturing qualitative outcome measurements. And again, 10 did touch on that as well. So where we've got qualitative measurement, you've selected that. We've selected an outcome that's qualitative. And then you go to your results section. You've got those key columns, so you're able to capture findings, themes, and quotes. You can always add in additional customized columns as well. So if there's something specific about your qualitative data that doesn't fit into those three, you're able to add in another column by going to the custom section here. So back up to our template. And we go to outcomes and add custom. So this is where you can add in anything else that you might want to capture that's qualitative. So I've just got an example here, details, not really a qualitative measure, but when I go back, all I need to do is use the plus icon. So you just hover and add the plus, and then I've got that additional information. So that's the way that you can keep going. You could add multiple themes in there, just like 10 was showing you. Looking through some more of the questions. A lot of questions came in about guidance as well, about where can I find out a little bit more about how to use these tools. When you go to set up your template, there are some great resources here that Ten pointed out. If you need help, there's a step-by-step guide there and a video tutorial. Highly recommend looking at those. The other place to go to is little question mark here. Helps you go through some steps on creating the templates there as well. If you go to our knowledge base, there's a whole section on data extraction and extraction 1. And so again, you can walk yourself through these, go through each of those individual sections so that you get a better idea of how to set those up. And there are other webinars that we've done where you can go back through and look at those as well. So those are all useful resources. As I said, Ten pointed out there's a live chat if you need help with that as well. So you're more than welcome to try and chat to one of us. Another question that came up was around this section. I'm just going to go back here, where you see scale, range, units, direction, and data value. Quite a few people had problems understanding what that was about. So this is really useful often when you have a scale that's around quality of life, maybe, or disability or pain scale. And sometimes these scales have different ranges. So some might go from 1 to 50, some might go from 1 to 100. And for some of those scales, they go in opposite directions. And what that means is that when you come to do analysis, you can't combine those two together. So this enables you to capture the kind of scale that you're using, what range it goes from, which direction is better or worse. And then when you come to your analysis, you've captured all that information. Now, for some reviews, this is not going to be relevant at all. And so again, if you go back to edit your template and you go to outcomes section, you can actually uncheck those. So it's always useful to have the notes section visible. But now when I publish my template and go back, you'll see all of those have now disappeared. So if it's not relevant, you can uncheck those boxes. Again, a lot of questions around can you adapt this for social sciences and other disciplines that aren't medical and health sciences? Absolutely. So your interventions, they don't have to be medical and health science interventions. They can be social science, they can be education, engineering, any discipline at all. You can still fit your intervention of interest or your exposure, for example, in there without any difficulty. Now we do offer, excuse me, we do offer some free one-on-one support if you're having difficulty setting up your template. And I did post that earlier in the session into the chat. If you do feel that you need support, we can offer, the consultant systematic reviewers can get in contact and we can give you one-on-one support in a 30-minute session for your review team. And for that, we really need you to have a protocol available, and we will walk you through difficulties you're having in the template and help you get set up for success. So you can contact the support team at support@covidence.org, and they'll be able to help you get hold of the link to be able to book one of those sessions. I think those are the main questions that came through. Any questions that you might have asked that I haven't been able to answer right now, we will respond to you over the coming days. So don't feel that we've ignored your questions, and we will be responding to you. Ken, are there any other questions that might have come in while I've been chatting away?
No, Julie, you've covered most of it. And we're getting a lot of thank yous as well from the chat. So thank you all as well so much for taking the time to attend the session.
Brilliant. So yes, we will be in touch if you have sent us in any questions, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.